Уважаемые дамы и господа,
Thank you, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. In the beginning, let me say that the G20 summit, G20 group over the 5 years of existence has turned into an efficient mechanism for developing and coordinating common approach of the global leading countries in the field of global economy and finances. We managed to even out the situation after the crisis peak in 2008 and 2009. We have managed to consolidate our efforts to ensure balanced and sustainable global economic development. Now, global economy is much more stable than 5 years ago. Economic growth is recovering, however, risks persist. From the beginning of Russia's presidency in G20, we set the goals of promoting growth and jobs creation. First of all, through boosting investments, effective regulation, confidence building on the markets. These priorities ensure the continuity in the work of the G20. Over the Russia's presidency, we managed to advance in all key directions. I would like to thank my colleagues from the G20 for joint productive work. I would like to thank our outreach partners. They all actively participated in discussing Russian initiatives. They have played an important role in increasing transparency and efficiency of our joint work. Results achieved during the Russia's presidency are formulated in the adopted today St. Petersburg Declaration of the G20 leaders and annexes to this document. We managed to make a lot of important practical decisions, both for international community and for Russian economy. Almost in all the areas, action plans were elaborated, designed to find and promote new growth sources. We have reached consensus regarding the need to combine the policy of maintaining proper economic growth rates with the adoption of mid-term country-specific strategies for fiscal consolidation. We've adopted the St. Petersburg Action Plan, defining mid-term targets of budget deficit reduction for every country, and the implementation of structural reforms. These are overdue steps on regulating labor markets and taxation, development of human capital, modernization of infrastructure, and regulation of the goods market. These measures are designed to build confidence of financial markets to our plans and encourage investors to invest more in the real economy and development. We see it as a guarantee of the long-term stabilization of global and national economies. Tangible progress has been achieved in the field of job creation. The G20 leaders approved the decisions made at the labor ministers and during the joint meeting of the finance and labor ministers. Let me note that that's the first such meeting during the G20 history. We set the goal of creating new qualitative jobs with a special focus on employment of vulnerable groups. First of all, young people, women, the disabled, and many other groups. For the first time, an integrated approach for forming labor market policy was proposed, with the aim to link the task of creating qualitative jobs with the needs to comprehensively develop economy, to take into account macroeconomic, financial, and social conditions, and the link existing between the labor market with investments, budget, and fiscal policy. This approach will help us balance out supply and demand on the labor market and create environment conducive to the development of business and investments into the creation of jobs and staff training and to ensure social protection of employees. The priority of our presidency and a new theme of the G20 became the topic of financing for investments. We've developed a program of research and development of recommendations to improve the investment climate and promote long-term investments. In the course of the implementation of this program, huge results have been achieved and they were approved of at the summit. First of all, these are high-level principles on the participation of institutional investors in financing long-term investments. Principal decisions were made to reform tax policy, with a view to fight tax evasion, including via offshore schemes. This year, this topic was on the top of our agenda. We adopted joint action plan on combating base erosion and profit shifting, and we agreed to jointly work on the multilateral standard for tax information exchange. In the area of trade, the G20 leaders confirmed its support to the development of multilateral trade system and WTO. We agreed to curb protectionism in global trade and to extend the relevant standstill arrangement till the end of 2016. We will work to further open our regional trade agreements, making them compatible with the WTO principles. Great success has been achieved in the field of financial regulatory reform and banking regulation, so-called Basel III arrangement, in the field of reforming over-the-counter derivatives markets. And measures were taken with respect to systemically important financial institutions. It was achieved thanks to the fact that in 2013 the Financial Stability Board has turned into a full-fledged international organization. We agreed that national and domestic financial stability measures should not result in unjustifiably high regulative costs for the participants of financial markets and result in market fragmentation. We will have to carry out an additional assessment of reforms and the impact of reforms in the financial sector on the economic growth. For the first time in the G20 history, we've prepared the accountability report on the G20 development commitments. First of all, in the field of development, its publication will make the G20 work more open with the help of mass media, with the societies of the G20. It will be clear what the G20 is involved in. It will help spread the positive experience of cooperation, first of all with the countries with low income. On the whole, over the last 3 years, from the moment of the adoption of multi-year action plan in Seoul, the G20 has achieved tangible results in the field of development assistance. The St. Petersburg Outlook for Development has been adopted, setting out 5 priorities for further work of the G20 in the field of assisting low-income countries, providing for ensuring food security, greater financial inclusion, higher financial literacy, creation of modern infrastructure, including the energy infrastructure, the development of human capital, and mobilization of domestic resources in the developing countries. In the field of energy sector, we've confirmed a number of very important principles. First of all, the need to ensure transparency and predictability of energy and commodity markets. Secondly, to promote so-called green growth and support the efforts of the international community in the field of fighting climate changes. Thirdly, to uphold measures in the field of best practice exchanges on regulating the energy sector. Another important topic for the G20 is fight against corruption. This year we've outlined the working strategy in this area, and at the summit a number of initiatives has been adopted, including regarding the anti-corruption plan of the G20 proposed by Russia. Let me highlight the importance of exchanging best practices on fighting against corruption at major international sports and cultural events requiring huge investments. I hope that the Global Alliance for the Integrity in Sports, created together with the United Nations, will contribute to the attainment of these goals. I would like to thank all my colleagues for the constructive work during the St. Petersburg summit. I believe that the decisions taken by us will be consistently implemented, and the G20 will be an example of efficient cooperation, interaction between the partners. It will contribute to ensuring stability and sustainable development of the global economy and increasing living standards for people. Dear ladies and gentlemen, on the sidelines of the G20 summit, we held a traditional BRICS summit. It helped us to compare our points of view regarding the wide range of issues of global economic development, to discuss the interaction within the 5 states. The importance of our association in the global economy is growing. Today, it is the largest market of the world, with 40% of the population amounting to 2.9 billion people. BRICS countries account for 17% of global trade and almost a third of the global GDP. For Russia, the work within the BRICS format is one of the priorities in its foreign policy. We would like to thank our colleagues for substantial contribution to the agenda of our presidency. The ideas put forth by them, together with concrete proposals, have been taken into account in the course of the preparation of the St. Petersburg Action Plan and many other documents. Another important area of the work within G20 is the IMF reform. We believe that the process of the quota redistribution in the IMF towards the developing countries should be completed as soon as possible. We thoroughly analyzed the course of the BRICS Development Bank development. As of today, we've agreed in terms of the bank composition, which will be 5 BRICS states. We agreed on the size of the initial subscribed capital that would amount to $50 billion. The decision-making precision has been coordinated with regards to the basic decisions of the bank, which will be made based on consensus. We discussed the issues of the creation of contingency reserve arrangement. Our monetary authorities reached an initial preliminary agreement on the quota distribution. Russia will participate in the work of the CR, investing $18 billion, and its total size will reach $100 billion. These measures will strengthen the sustainability of the global financial system, which is not always predictable and depends too much on the state of affairs of just a few issuers and a number of reserve currencies. We asked our finance ministers to continue this work and report back on its results in Brazil next year. In the conclusion, I would like to thank our partners for joint productive work. I believe that these negotiations will contribute to further deepening cooperation within the BRICS format. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for your attention. Now I'm happy to answer your questions. Let's build our work in the following way. Let's ask only substantial issues, and let's be brief because it's too late. We've been working from morning till night, so please, now the floor is yours. Grozny, let's begin with you. Thank you for an opportunity to ask this question. Vladimir Vladimirovich, the Chechen Republic, with the help of your assistance and from some country of cities, were restored together with this social safety net. However, there are problems in the field of industrial development, in the field of job creation. It is a very pressing issue of today. Let me recall that oil industry has always been the driver of our industry. However, right now the construction of oil refineries has been hindered. Could you assist to the restoration of the oil refinery production as a president? That's the first question. And the second question, do you think the second question is not regarding today's topic? Well, do you think that the first question is regarding the topic of this summit? Well, nevertheless, I would like to tell you the following. Grozny, in the Second World War, in the Caucasus, the battles were made for Grozny. Together with other peoples, we protected our fronts. Over all these years, we hope that we will get the title of the City of Honor, but it hasn't happened. Vladimir Vladimirovich, please, could you have an impact on the situation so that the candidature of Grozny could be considered for the nomination? Let me
start with the second question. Of course, Chechens had suffered from repressions, and during the Second patriotic World War, they did a lot to defend their country. They show themselves as valiant warriors, and there are a lot of documents confirming that. It is a heroic people, and such were their actions, heroic actions, when our country was at war. I will not decide on this issue personally, but I will instruct to put this question in the relevant structures, and I would like to thank you for that intentions. As for the oil refinery, well, in order to make it in line with G20 topics, we have discussed energy topics, but this is a very specific question. We should have considered economic benefits. Of course, if such oil refinery will be built, it means job creations, it means many benefits. We will come back to that issue, and the relevant instructions will be formulated both to Ministry of Energy and Ministry of Natural Resources. The economic benefits of a specific projects are what matter most. The girl over there, please. Yes, please. Vladimir Vladimirovich, it will not be an overstatement to say that this summit was overshadowed by Syria, while at the economic issues, leaders found mutually acceptable solutions. As we know, the issue of Syria was quite divisive, almost half by half. The opinions divided. How this issue can affect economic and political decisions that will be taken in the future. You know, everything that concerns the Middle East developments affects global economy in a most direct manner, because it provides the global economy with energy resources. When conflicts emerge there, the energy prices start to grow. And what does this mean? This means that those prices suppress the development of global economies. So in such a complex situation in which the global economy is now, it is counterproductive to destabilize the situation in the Middle East. I will be as diplomatic as possible here. Yesterday we spent the entire evening discussing the issue of Syria and other issues that arise with respect to it. We have completed our discussions at 1 a.m. Moscow time, and after that I had bilateral meeting with Mr. Cameron. Actually, the votes, the opinions didn't divide 50 to 50. Who was for military intervention? United States, France, Saudi Arabia, Canada, and Turkey. Mr. Cameron also was advocating military intervention, but the British Parliament was against that. The Chancellor of Germany is also cautious. Germany is not going to participate in any military actions. Who was condemning and opposing that way of action? Russian Federation, India, China, Indonesia, Argentina, Brazil, South Africa, Italy. And also, Secretary General of the United Nations also voiced his protest against the military intervention. And let us not forget the address by the Pope, who directly voiced the inadmissibility of military intervention. I already named you the leaders of the states who are advocating military intervention, but I can assure you that the majority of the population in those countries are on our side. They are against expansion of military activities. Look at what the sociological surveys show, both in the United States and in other countries. The majority of the population is against military intervention. Everything that happened with the use of chemistry chemical weapons. It is all provocation on the part of the militants who are expecting to get aid, to get support from outside, from those countries who support them. This is first. Second, application of force towards sovereign state is possible only in case if self-defense is involved, but Syria doesn't threat the United States. And second, by the mandate of the United Nations. As it was said yesterday by one of the participants of our discussion, those who do that violate the law. Those who act unilaterally violate the law. Izvestia newspaper. What relation do you have to the United States? I thought that you are from the United States. No, I'm not. My question is, did you manage to meet with Barack Obama, probably passing by in an informal situation? Many journalists are of opinion that there are certain differences in foreign policy between the United States and Russia, but actually these differences are affected by the fact that your personal relations between you and Barack Obama are not that bad. How can you characterize your relationship with Barack Obama? We actually met with Mr. Obama not on feet, but on other part of the body. We were sitting. The conversation lasted for probably 20 minutes. It was a very friendly conversation. We stick to our guns. Everybody remained with his position. We understand each other. We listen to each other. We understand arguments. We do not agree with those arguments, but still we can hear them. We try to find an agreement towards peaceful settlement of this crisis, and we agreed that the foreign ministers of our countries, Foreign Minister of our country, Mr. Lavrov, and Secretary of the State, Jim Kerry, will meet together and discuss this painful topic. Yes, you please. Please take the mic. Thank you. Wall Street Journal paper. You have just mentioned that there was no convergence of the positions between you and Mr. Obama at your meeting. Can you say that during your meetings with all the leaders, some attitudes changed towards Syria, even a little bit? And one more question, since you have a meeting for 15-20 minutes and communications between Moscow and Washington is improving, does this communication improvement include the possibility of exchange Mr. Snowden by Mr. Booth? No, Snowden is not convicted here, so what should we exchange for what? We are exchanging the security services personnel who found themselves in a difficult situation abroad for their colleagues who are imprisoned here in Russia. This practice exists all through the world, but Snowden is not prosecuted here. This is a separate topic. It is not related to espionage, and we didn't even touch upon this topic today. We were talking only about Syria. We didn't talk about Snowden. Let me stress, Mr. Snowden got to Russia by chance. We didn't invite him here. He could have gone to South America by transit, but actually your compatriots, how to express it without saying something odd? Your compatriots scared everybody and make him stick in our territory, make him stuck on our territory. They could have acted otherwise. Remember what they did to the aircraft of the president of Bolivia. They just landed it, and that's it. They closed the airspace. They could have done the same with Mr. Snowden, and It is understood what would have happened next. But they had to scare everybody and leave it here in Russia. What were they expecting? That we will unilaterally extradite it? But he didn't commit any crimes on our territory. This is the evident practice of international relations. Such issues should be solved only at mutual basis. We many times were asking them to conclude an agreement on mutual extradition. We asked them to extradite people who engaged in crimes against humanity, who were engaged in kidnappings, but they won't. So such question is incorrect. So the President of the United States didn't pose such question today. As to the convergence of positions, we have our own position. Of course, we hold consultations with everybody, and the fact that yesterday in the evening, Prime Minister of India stated that he is totally against any military actions. It was unexpected. The position of Indonesian president was also unexpected. It is the largest Islamic country in the world. President of Brazil also was totally against. The president of South Africa said a very important thing, not only with respect to Syria, but with respect to the world order. He says that the small countries in the global world, in today's world, are feeling increasingly vulnerable, increasingly not protected. And there is an impression that any superpower can apply force to them. This is their impression. This is how they feel. And he's right. This is the international practice. Just try to dissuade North Koreans to cancel their nuclear program. But they will answer you. Together we will be hit and will be exterminated tomorrow. So in order to prevent the spread of the destruction, the weapons of mass destruction, we need to comply with we need to abide by the rules of international law. First of all, let's move to the other side. Good afternoon, Vladimir Vladimirovich, News Arabic. Let me get back to the Syrian topic. I couldn't quite hear you. Which topic? Let me get back to the Syrian problem. What do you think are the possible implications of the potential strike by the US in the Middle East, and especially implications in such countries as Egypt, where new authorities declare their fight against terrorists? And how do you assess the situation in Egypt now? Thank you. It is a difficult question. What was the beginning in Egypt, and where are they now? Everything started with the ousting of President Mubarak and legalization of Muslim brothers. Now they are underground, and now the martial law is again there. We are very concerned about the situation in Egypt. Egypt is a friendly nation to us, and it has been the friendly nation to us for many years. But for many countries, and especially for the region, Egypt is a key Arab country, and lack of stabilization there is extremely dangerous, not only for Egypt itself, but for the region, for the entire region. If Egypt is weak, then the situation will be unpredictable. There is no understanding on where the development will lead to. Now the military are making attempts to fight terrorist threats, which is especially dangerous in Sinai Peninsula. The fact that terrorism is on the rise on Sinai Peninsula is dangerous not only for Israel, but for Egypt itself, because it gives it gives Israel a legal instrument, legal tools to secure their security. And what will it lead to? Israel will say, we have to and we will ensure our security and will conduct relevant operations. And if it happens, it will lead to the strong destabilization of the entire region. So we wish Egypt people to obtain stability as soon as possible. We will support them as much as we can, and we will cooperate with any legitimate government there. Thank you. Yes, please, over there, please. Vladimir Vladimirovich, thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. I am the editor of Society and Environment newspaper, and I'm looking at the economy from the perspective of an environmentalist. G20 summit is a very important, both from substance point of view and from the form, an important event both for the entire world and for Russia itself. I would like to ask you a strategic question. A lot has been said on the summit regarding economy, regarding finance, regarding money, but little is said about environment, about information policies, about social justice, about world visions. But it was your decree that declared the 2013 as a year of environment. So I got an impression that summit tries to avoid the issues of environment and environment protection, and there can also be an impression that the summit is trying to solve the issues of small cosmetic repairs of global economy. But the global economy cannot grow for eternity because our planet is limited. Sometime this growth will end. So let me ask you about your own vision, about the attitudes of world leaders. Are they ready to engage in the talks about environmental sustainability, not only about economy?
Well, your statement that development should stop is a mistake. Well, that's what you said. Development should stop one day. Well, we should ask God to prevent us from that. Development is unlimited and it should develop forever. It will be limited only in the situation, here I agree with you, when we will understand that our environment is in a dangerous situation and it has limited resources. It cannot be contaminated forever without any repercussions. I want to agree with you when you said that our leaders did not pay enough attention to this problem. Almost every issue addressed at the summit, starting from the energy sector and systemic measures in the field of financial support, were associated with the environmental issues. Maybe we should have listened to you and to your colleagues involved in environmental protection in the way that environmental issues should have been highlighted as a separate priority. But it is not the fault of the G20 leaders. It's our fault because we are hosts and we should have paid much more attention to this topic. I take it as substantiated criticism and we'll take that into account in the future. The girl over there, the floor is yours. Well, we left Mr. Peskov without a job, who was going to chair this press conference, but he will have a chance to do that. Vladimir Vladimirovich, just a second. I'm sorry. I think there are two more questions and we'll conclude this press conference, but because there are bilateral meetings to come. Please try to be brief and I'll try to be brief in my answer. Let's get back to the Syrian issue because this issue is at the focus of our attention, but it was discussed behind the closed doors. You once said that at no conditions Russia will get involved in the military conflict in Syria. And thus I have a question. If military actions start, well, they are already underway there. Well, not, I'm referring to military intervention. If it happens, In what other countries a similar situation might evolve? Well, you know, I wouldn't even dare to think that yet another country will be subject to external intervention, external aggression. Will we help Syria? Yes, we will. And we keep doing it right now. We are supplying arms. We are cooperating in the area of economy. And hopefully we will cooperate more on humanitarian issues, including humanitarian assistance and giving support to the civilians who are in a very dire situation right now. Now, the last question, please. Have you got sick? Have you got sick? You keep coughing here. Well, you know, no. That's the results from my trip around the Far East. It's the fault of the ACs in the aircraft. So now it is the last question. Of course. So, okay, two more questions. I'm from Greenpeace of Russia, Civil 20. The question regarding green economy and environmental protection. Take into account the decision to consolidate budgets, what impact will have on our tax policy, including regarding the provision of benefits for offshore companies with a view of high risks of the fact that the investments will not be paid back and the harms for the environment are great. Well, we still have benefits for the offshore operations. In the third reading, additional benefits will be adopted amounting to around $2 billion a year. Well, you know, these are very investment-intensive projects with an unknown final result because the geological survey should be carried out, then preparatory works. Even at this stage, these works are carried out in remote regions with the use of advanced technologies far from the shore and in deep waters, which makes the projects very expensive. That's why without any public support, at least at the initial stage, in the form of benefits and subsidies, this work will not have been carried out ever. Regarding the environmental aspect of this problem, we can say that we will not permit the implementation of any projects that are not thoroughly assessed from the environmental point of view. It is unacceptable on our territory, particularly in the far north, where environmental conditions are very vulnerable. Now we are going to ask the last question. Dost telechannel. I wanted to ask you about the international relations with regards to Belarus. Ural-Kali case, Baumgartner, and the arrest in absentia of Suleiman Karimov. We always compare ourselves to the West, to the United States, and one could hardly imagine such a situation when Director General of Coca-Cola is arrested and authorities keep silent and they are not responding to the situation. What is the reason of your silence? Because you haven't mentioned these cases at all. Have you talked to Lukashenko on this issue? What was his response? Well, I didn't talk to Lukashenko about that, and the silence has to do with the fact that we want to address this issue and not to bring it to the stalemate. It's easy to do when rhetoric is raised, but the problem is to be addressed.
Vivian Nunes, Voice of Russia in London. You met with David Cameron very
Секундочку,
late.
я послушаю лучше, чтобы был точный перевод.
You met with David Cameron very late last. Okay. Vivian Nunes, Voice of Russia in London. You met with the British Prime Minister very late last night. How would you characterise your relationship with David Cameron, and are there any problems or obstacles, or what would you say?
Ну, у нас есть разное понимание ситуации.
Well, there is a difference in opinions with regard to the situation evolving in Syria. That's well known. But we also highly value the independent importance of British-Russian relations. Our mutual trade is growing, and it keeps growing further. It is an upward trend. Our relations with Great Britain are very special from the political point of view because both Russia and Great Britain are permanent members of the UN Security Council. We cooperate within the framework of this very important platform. We do a lot together in the field of improving relations between Britain and the European Union, and we would like to thank our British partners for that. Thanks God, I cannot see any substantial issues that would complicate the Russian-British relations, and we are thankful to our British partners for their interest in the development of our links. Thank you very much. What's over there? Okay, go ahead. Hopefully we are from Asia. Well, you can not see from there. Vladimir Vladimirovich? Chinese agency, I would like to congratulate you on the success of this summit. I've got two questions to you. The first question is that I know that yesterday you met with the chairman of China and signed a number of documents in the field of cooperation. Both sides showed their preparedness to develop this cooperation further. How are you going to strengthen Russian-Chinese links? The second question is that we know that over currently a number of huge large-scale events are going to take place in Russia, such as BRICS, APEC, Olympic Games, Football World Cup, World Championship. What are the initial intentions to host such major events, international events? I didn't get your question. What is the question? What are the reasons behind hosting such large-scale international events? Well, the first question regarding Russian-Chinese relations. Indeed, China is our strategic partner in substance, which is could be characterized not by the amount of our mutual trade. Today, China is #1 trade economic partner for Russia, with the volume of mutual trade amounting to $57.5 million, the highest compared to other countries, an unprecedented figure for bilateral relations. But it is not the limit to our relations. We develop our cooperation in the field of high technologies. We are undertaking the first steps of cooperation in the field of airspace interaction, aircraft building, wide-bodied aircraft construction. We agreed on our cooperation in the field of agriculture, nuclear power. I'm pleased to note that our Chinese friends trust Russian experience in this area. They trust our developments. You know, 2 power units of Taiwan power plant are in operation. The 3rd and the 4th ones are to be prepared, and maybe we would continue this cooperation. We are extremely interested in that. We believe that this area of cooperation in the energy sector, in the area of high technology, is very important for us. And finally, hydrocarbons. You know that we've got huge plans here. Gazprom is planning to supply gas, LNG, to China. For the first time, we let our Chinese partners develop one of our huge fields. Together with Novatek, it will explore Yamal field, gas field. So our work is on the rise. It is multilateral, multifaceted, and that's how its strategic nature is demonstrated. Hopefully, we will continue coordinating our approaches in the political vein. It is happening so right now, and our positions on the international arena are a major factor of international life today. Regarding our goals and our reasoning behind holding international large-scale sports, cultural, economic events, would be frank. The goal is to develop various regions of the Russian Federation, to develop their infrastructure, to keep touching upon the Asian part of the world development. I went to Vladivostok and I visited the campus of the university we built in Vladivostok. We also built a number of bridges, the best in the world in terms of its length and quality. We built lots of roads. The city has been transformed completely. And the same holds true of the Olympic Games. Russia is the northern country in terms of its location. We would want to have a world-class, all-year-round resort in the North Caucasus. And after the Olympic Games, it will be the case. I believe that holding such important events in various fields, we have an opportunity to actively participate in the work of these events, in these fora. It gives us also an opportunity to clearly state our point of view and to promote the ways to address international problems which are, from our point of view, are most effective. Thank you very much for your attention.